Yes, hello. Welcome. Nice to have you here. Today we have a special guest from Brazil, Z. He's an activist and will tell us something about the current situation there and how the situation becomes and how they deal with the pandemic situation, and will answer a lot of your questions. That's why I ask you strongly to ask some. And I would say just let's get started and see. I will give the word to you.
Hello, can you hear me fine? Nice.
Perfect.
Thank you very much for hosting us, inviting us for this debate. We are speaking from Kasa Invisivel, is a squat in Belo Horizonte, Brazil. Is one of the, we have like a lot of squats and a strong movements fighting for house, for people to have where to live. We have many squats here, but we are the only one that fits the tradition of squats and ocupas, and that brings this countercultural background. Not all of us are anarchists, but we have anarchist principles and sets of ways of organizing, like many autonomous movements in Brazil. So we are kind of the only one in this perspective right now, but we are connected to a lot of other contexts of movements. You want to present something more, or should I just go?
Let's go at first, I would say.
Okay, so I will share some images with you. I have this technical limitation, which I trying to solve right now. Can you see any image already?
No, actually.
Let me see. I'm pretty bad with this program. Here we go. Can you see?
Perfect. Images are there.
Okay. This is our house. It's a Kasa Invisivel, is a set of 3 buildings from the 30s. So houses with 80 years old that were abandoned. So Belo Horizonte is a very young city. It has like a few more than 100 years old. So this is one of the oldest buildings in downtown. It was empty for more than 20 years. We took over it and squatted in 2013. 2013 was the year where we have the huge uprisings against the rise of bus and metro tickets all over the country. Probably you heard that if you are following social movements and radical organizations and mobilizations in Brazil. Probably you heard that 2013 was a turning point. So we like to say and think like our squat as a materialization of the struggle, where people met on the streets, made bonds on the riots, made bonds on the social unrest, and start to create a material place, a material world where we can share and create new relations. So it happened in many other circumstances. After the anti-globalization movement, we had a boom of new other social centers and squats occurring in Brazil. 2013 was no different. We tried to work. This is a picture from the carnival in 2019, I think. So yeah, little did we know how bad things are going to be, and no gatherings, no parties for a long time, when we're still on this thing here as pandemic is keep going. So we are like a place where people can live. I'm living in the squats. We have libraries, a social center and people to a meeting space, a conference space. We have Cooperative food cooperative. We have an info shop also. We have a library, a community library, and we try to be a place for other people to organize. People who don't have spaces also, they can do their meetings here. Many unions, collectives, art groups, radical feminist groups can gather and do their own thing, their own meetings, their own workshops. Everything that happens in the squat is for free. It's open. The door is open for anyone from the community to go in. And since the pandemic started, we have to change a little bit our focus. We couldn't have people here. Do you still see the images? Can you see us with this yellow crazy vests?
Yes.
I don't
It's
know.
a cool picture, by the way.
You see only the image, or you see me talking too? It's just my voice.
I see the image like big, and you are very small.
Okay, I'm just seeing the house here. But yeah, this is our house when we started to do solidarity actions. When the pandemic started, we decided to focus on solidarity actions with the homeless in our neighborhood. We are in downtown. We are literally in the most expensive neighborhood in the town. The square meter of the floor, the soil is the most expensive here. We are literally squatting where it hurts the most for the rich. But we have like a tremendous amount of homeless people around. So we made kits with like we made like a packs with soap, water, food, and some guides to people can like, and masks, so people can use masks, clean their hands, have something to eat. And we are sharing this around. We made some around 60, 70 meals every day, and not every week. And then we share with people. We at the time we didn't I think we took a little bit seriously the risk of infection, so we were like packed from head to toe. But I think today we know that it's more like a respiratory virus. So I think we don't need to use that much clothes, but you know, a lot of style. Sometimes something like Beastie Boys, something like that. And this is one of the anti-fascist soccer fans organizing the food distribution this year, like last month. Also around our downtown, we are in this rich neighborhood, but we have a few blocks away, we have like the downtown and the places where gentrification didn't start yet. We have like many people in need of many support. So this is the view of two of the houses having the street fair last month, where we were doing food distribution, but also clothes and literature for free, so people can take it. We have like clothes for we how I say, the winter was about to end last month, so it was a little bit cold yet, so we have the clothing distribution and so on. And for now, what we can talk a little bit is how the resistance and how the struggle it's happening here in Brazil under Bolsonaro regime. We can talk a little bit. We'll try to guide a little bit our trajectory here, but I would like to save like most of the space for us to chat about it and have some talk about it. Basically, as I told you, the squat started in 2013, where we have this big uprising. We were under the Workers' Party, PT, the Workers' Party government. It was in their fourth term. So we have the left in power. So basically, no reason to protest, right? All the basic needs were being achieved. people, 40 million people were out of poverty with Lula programs, President Lula, with Bolsa Familia and the programs to eradicate the hunger in Brazil. It works pretty well. It put many people in universities and give opportunity to study, create new jobs using the money that was like floating from the north of the globe. The First World War putting a lot of money after the crisis in 2008, put a lot of money in Brazil. We have this extra production money also coming from commodities and so on. So it was like a very stable moment in Brazil. But what we saw was like the big unions and social movements like the MST, the Landless Workers Movement, which is the biggest social movement in the world with almost 2 million people in it. All of that was kind of pacified and not having too much progress during this time. And what happened was the autonomous movements, especially MPL, the Free Pass movement, called for demonstrations as they do every year since they were created in the end of anti-globalization movements early 2000. And suddenly the riots in Sao Paulo became huge. The repression made like 4,000 people on the streets become like 40 and then 100,000, and it spread to other cities as well. MPL has is a federation model, is a very anarchic organization. And then other riots were called in other cities where they have this increase in bus and metro tickets fare. All this became a new wave of uprising. We have like mega events like the World Cup, Olympics coming to Brazil, and this showed that the business was not so well. The left in power was not able to make everything good, everything pacified, not include everybody. The indigenous lands in Amazonia were being threatened by the infrastructure buildings. We have like pacification in the favelas using the same troops using Haiti to pacify the country. We're here to using against the internal enemy to take over the favelas and the places where the state is not, and organized crime took over after decades. We have like this many other things where the left was promising us to a chance to go up in the pyramids of the capitalism, but there's no space, there's no room for everybody on top. So what we can see as we were chatting before is that a historical pattern where fascist, conservatives, reactionary movements, groups and parties and individuals and leaders, they can use the insatisfaction of a popular revolt, of a working class momentum to promote their own version of solutions, right? They are very good co-opting this. I think anyone from Germany can talk like properly much more about the risks and origins of fashions than we can, but you know how they can appropriate the aesthetics and everything since the beginning. I recommend you, everything we're talking here, I can recommend texts for you to look after, which is the Crime Think website, crimethink.com. The articles about Brazil, most of them are in English, and many of them are in German, so you can relate with that. Good,
actually. I just read them before we get started here, and they're good texts. So
that's very
read
good.
It afterwards.
Yeah, so you can take a little bit of the view from the moment. You have like people, organizers looking back to that moment, but we can take a fresh reflections on how, like in 2013, we had right-wing movements infiltrating the riots and the protests. Only in the end, after the demand was achieved, all the riots made the bus tickets go down, the cost of it. We saw like many people going to the streets, many movements with the national flags, with a nationalist approach, saying it's not just for 20 cents, it's not just for that, it's like for the whole Brazil, and appropriating that. And we had some clashes. We had, like, for instance, in São Paulo, people were many anarchists has this idea to, when you are in autonomous movement on the streets, they were like put down or put back the party, the leftist party's flags, so you don't go in the front, so this is not a party movement. So the right wing were there putting down the leftist this is an anecdote for you to get the picture, putting down the leftist party's flags. So we saw ourselves like anarchists. No, they should not do this. We're going to fight those motherfuckers trying to put down those flags, because they don't mean like power to the people and not to parties. They mean like one party, or shut down the Congress, or like, you know, any fascist agenda. When you have a leftist criticism for left and communism, is very different when you have the right wing criticism. We should pay attention to not give them space. And what we saw afterwards, like after some years, after 2 years, we saw the movement to impeach Dilma Rousseff, in her fourth term ruling Brazil. First, we have 2 terms of President Lula, then President Dilma, the first working class person to be the president, then the first woman to be president in Brazil. So like a lot of progress. We saw all these movements to impeach Dilma Rousseff using the same tools autonomous movements developed, decentralized ways to make calls, I'll say the internet, the question media version of the facts. So the thing we used to say, I like that reflection, we should be careful. Not that we should be careful to what we desire, but if you live and keep organizing, keep in social movements long enough, you see your desires becoming true, and then you start to question if that was the best thing. Like 20 years ago, we have indie media, and we have the slogan, right? Be the media. And then now we have the whole new internet model with like mobile internet communications, social medias, where any individual can become a platform to diffuse information. The right wing took that, and we know that, you know, the indie media and the anarchists created the platforms for the codes where Twitter were created. So we saw all that tools becoming a weapon on right wing discourse, not to discredit media. As I say, the critics we made to leftist parties is like the critics we made to the media, the bourgeois media, the capitalist media, the corporative media that has the elite interest in their hands. Now another kind of elite, you have the conservative and fascist who want to present themselves as revolt, as anti-establishment, becoming, you hate the media, right? Because they lie, but not because they have the interest of a class, the 1% or whatever, but because they have the interest of this communist class, which is not communist at all, which is like, anyway. So we saw all these tools becoming weaponized by the right wing and paving the way for a new messiah to present as a solution. What we saw, unfortunately, is that Jair Bolsonaro, a former captain from the military army in Brazil, who was a congressman, a deputy for 28 years, like 3 decades, doing no shit. He literally didn't approve one single law. He didn't do anything for 30 years, except putting his 3 sons in Congress also, presented himself as a solution, as the anti-establishment, as the new politics. How can a guy being a congressman for 30 years be the new politics? You know, it's just a matter of marketing, how you present yourself. And we have this guy. He was not alone. He was the the face of the military party, like not a real party, but we can say that the military still holds a lot of power in Brazil. And the military got like money as never during the Workers' Party rule. So you can see that all this, the military and police apparatus was strengthened and legitimate under Lula, under the Workers' Party, to finally be used by the right wing. What we saw is that for those who don't know, we had a military coup d'etat in 1964. We have 21 years of civil military dictatorship. The dictatorship was not just military. Any dictatorship works like that. You have a civil corporate elite also working with that. And when we have the end of dictatorship, we didn't have accountability, punishment, anything, but literally anything to any military involved in prison, mass incarceration, torture, and disappearing people. All these heads of military were still in power, were still holding their positions. Their subordinates were now head of the government. And we have all these generals, commanders, captains, and whatever supporting Bolsonaro, mobilizing the police and the military and their bases in this machine to elect him. They made a propaganda with a lot of fake news. We have also, during the moment where Dilma was impeached, we have unprecedented investigation on corruption scandals with the structure, the core of executive and legislative power is the car war operation, as maybe the international news call it. We call it Lava Jato, where it was like bigger than, I don't know, 10 times Watergate in the United States or something like that. And for sure, there's no news on that. There's no anything new. We know that the politicians and corporations are connected in a big scheme of corruption. This became clear. Many of billionaires were arrested. Many politicians were arrested, and many of this corruption is related to the Workers' Party for sure. But all the centrist or right-wing parties were not targeted by the media as that. So we have a campaign to delete after the impeachment of Dilma, and Lula got arrested for charges of corruption. That now this year they drop because they have no proof. We have like a judge involved in this. The judge that arrested Lula became the Ministry of Justice in Bolsonaro. So all this came with media and everything was like, when the left was not useful anymore, they put out the Workers' Party. When the Workers' Party was not profitable enough, and the banks and the corporations and the commodities and everything was the profit was a record for them during the Workers' Party government. If you want someone to manage the business, you should trust the leftists. They will do the left will do a management of neoliberal economy as anybody. So when they were not useful anymore, all this came down. Bolsonaro became the president. He has 57 million votes. So it was like 25% of population in Brazil. It was a majority of people voting. So we cannot say that Brazil is Bolsonaro. The majority of Brazilian people is with Bolsonaro. He has a radical base that could amplify its voice and make it bigger and be elected. And we know this was going to be bad. All this way the new right is presenting themselves, be it in Greece, in United States, in Brazil, in Turkey, in many places. I think we can share this. They are not presenting themselves as just a solution or with a efficient management of capitalism or stuff. They are presenting themselves as fighters. They are presenting like as the one who will engage in a war against the enemy, be it communism, fictitious or not, the immigrants, the black people, and the women and native who are like getting more rights, maybe sometimes for the first time. And we have all that zeitgeist. Can I borrow a word to I don't know, to mobilize people in this fight. There's no other word for it. It's like fight to eliminate, fight to eradicate or delete other people. So we could imagine this was going to be bad. We knew that the violence and the exclusion and the attacks will target minorities and the poor and the black and the indigenous lands and the nature, but we couldn't imagine how bad that shit was going to be with a pandemic. So we have this big, the worst pandemic in 100 years. We got excited. Maybe we could do as we did in Brazil in 1917 or 18, where you have the first anarchist general strike in the country, which like thousands of people were on the streets and fighting during the pandemic also, and made like solidarity actions against that. So we took this example for 100 years ago and during the Spanish flu. So maybe we can do something like that. Maybe we can organize ourselves like that. So pandemic was spreading. The government has. This is something that I would like to chat more with you later. Like we have this thing here that we realize now. The fascists. We took a long time to call Bolsonaro a fascist. We knew he was a conservative, racist, and thing. So we have like many. I don't know if you heard about it. You have like many allusions, connections to Nazi aesthetics. His culture ministry made a statement based on Goebbels' statement with the Hitler photo in the back. He made the same thing with the Bolsonaro photo and used the same words as Goebbels said something in Germany in the 30s. Now Bolsonaro is meeting with the nephew of the ministry of Hitler, and in the Crime Think article we can see that picture of that. So all this and his base here, we have to remember when we took a long time to assume Bolsonaro was a fascist, but when he started to do shitty presentations, talks on TV, he was like just a very not known congressman. 15 years ago, he made like some racist statements and against gay people, against black people, against his son, the possibility of his son dating a black woman or a gay person. The first ones to show up, to go to the streets, to support Bolsonaro were neo-Nazi skinheads in São Paulo in 2011, 2010, and now I don't remember. We have an article about that also. So the first ones who went to the streets were neo-Nazi to support Bolsonaro because Bolsonaro supports family values and stuff. So his neo-Nazi base is now becoming very known, and he made like a lot of new laws to put guns in the hands of people, and make it easy for people to buy guns and carry guns around. And he's doing daily threats to next elections, saying that if we should go back to the paper vote, not using the machines that we use right now in Brazil. And the same things, the same playbook Trump did. So when we have the pandemics, all this structure that we saw that were not built anywhere. That's the thing I start to open random thoughts here, but the thing I would like to talk with you about your history lessons. When you see the old fascists presenting themselves, they present like a solution. Hitler presenting himself as a solution to the deals Germany were forced to accept after the First War. He brought back the employment, build the industry, schools, and all the structures that seems to be working in their fucked up way. Now we see like this only structure that works is the structure, the discourse of hate, the hate speech, and the militancy for, you know, for racism and patriarchy. The pandemic, when it happens, and when we reached Brazil, it spread like wildfire because there is no federal, until this day there is no federal management. There's no federal campaign for people to use masks, to wash their hands, to do this or that based on facts, based on science, based on what doctors say. We only have this organized by mayors, by communities organizing solidarity. You only have that. So all the most part of death happen in the poor community, in the Black communities, in indigenous lands, in working class classes, you know, working class groups. So the pandemic were killing people. The police were also killing as never before. The first time we have the first weeks we had like a lockdown, not a lockdown, but a stay home policy. Like many people were not going out. There was no police operations in the favelas. The killings dropped dramatically. When you have the operations back, the raids, the arrests, all the shit police do, we saw in April, like in Rio de Janeiro, 43% of deaths. How I say, a rise. So police and the virus were killing as never before, and the Black and the poor were still the targets. This discourse of against the media, against the I don't know, the media financed by George Soros and the communists and China and Cuba became a speech against science, against basic things. And then we have like many fake campaigns to medicines that doesn't work, you know. And one thing that should be clear here is that capitalism is a logistical disaster. We have the most efficient tools ever. We have the most efficient production system ever. We could feed everybody. We could have resources and house and health and food to everybody. But the capitalist system is based in a way that billionaires get everything, corporations get everything, the state gets everything. And I don't know if you have a picture of Brazil, but Brazil is a country with a huge economy that feeds at least 20% of the world. 20% of the countries in the world, of people in the world, eat food planted in Brazil. So we can imagine that we could produce enough food for everybody. But the reality is that we are now in a big city. As I told you, we are in Belo Horizonte. You have Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo, Porto Alegre, Salvador, many big cities. When you have a structure for life and everything, but we have like a misery. You can see this as like many mountains, but like a few mountains with in the top you have the cities with dragging resources from all over the country, and just outside of the border of the city, it's a abyss, is a valley where 50% of the population of Brazil don't have water like running in their houses, don't have a sewage. They shit in holes, they shit in the rivers. So when you see Bolsonaro being questioned about do a lockdown and provide money, government money so people can stay at home, they made it here. It was like, I don't know, if you translate that, will be like 100 euros. So it is not enough to feed a family, to pay to live, you know. And so Bolsonaro said, Sweden didn't make a lockdown. Sweden is okay. Sweden's fine. Sweden has 20 million people. Only São Paulo has this. Only the city of São Paulo has 20 million people. And you know, I've been in Sweden once or twice, and I know that you can look for the data. Everybody has a fucking house with water and hot water. Here, 50%, like 100 million people don't have where to clean their hands. So when you say stay home, wash your hands, some people don't have, most of people don't have their own homes. And if they have that, they don't have water. So Brazil and capitalism itself is a logistical disaster. And here we can see this materialized, and how even I know there's a class struggle. There's like there's inequalities in Sweden. In Brazil, the things are very, very different, very deeper. That's the picture I want you to have when you think about the pandemic in Brazil. We are facing sometimes, like in the 20th century, what not even Malatesta and the anarchists saw in Italy in the 19th century, you know. Or sometimes the precarity here is like 2 centuries late, you know. So what we can do in this context: organize grassroots solidarity movements, use these moments to show people how capitalism doesn't work, how our leaders don't give a fuck about us, how our bosses don't give a fuck about us. So, you know, many people are still going to the bus. I don't know if you want to take another portrait, just Google public transportation, public transit in Sao Paulo or anything like that. You see how you cannot maintain social distance. I won't describe that, but I think you should Google that. So
right.
I want to talk a little bit now about the solidarity actions. And
I've also a question, maybe.
What?
I think in the article was, or one of the Crime-Pick articles was mentioned that the government consciously used the pandemic to get rid of some indigenous movements or people.
Mm-hmm.
Drew, can you tell me or tell us maybe a little more about that before we get in detail what you are doing against it, or what kind of solidarity actions you did?
Nice. Well, the Bolsonaro opened the way for explorers to take wood, gold, oil, and agribusiness in indigenous lands, which we call indigenous lands because it's their right to be there and take care of that. But we have to, we in Brazil, all the general population, and I think anyone in the world should see indigenous lands as a duty. We all as human species, we all as animals, as part of nature, we should take care of these lands, because if they are in danger, it's not just like, it's not just the animals, the forest and the indigenous people who will disappear. We all gonna disappear. We all need this environment to be around. So the struggle now, I wanna talk a little bit about that also. But the Bolsonaro opened the way for this exploiters go to these places. We have many indigenous lands deep in the forest. We have still indigenous people who never been in contact with the city or white people or whatever. They are like very isolated as centuries ago. And the base of Bolsonaro is the Christians, how I say that, Protestant evangelical groups. And many of them were spreading the fake news about vaccines and about the, I don't know, hydroxychloroquine, all this bullshit Trump also used to talk. And people got, indigenous people were the priority in the vaccination programs. As I opened the parentheses here, but I was going to say we have the indigenous people deep in the forest, but we have them in the cities also. São Paulo has indigenous lands. Rio de Janeiro has indigenous land. Many of them are nearby. They are not like in a paradise isolated. They are like related, and there are a lot of problems of that, of being close to the city, of being close of the economy and the political system we all share. but being marginalized, being like not able to access all the resources that citizenship allows you to have, and you have alcoholism, many other problems of that. All this it's increasing during Bolsonaro government. So when we have now we have a parliamentary inquiry. Some words I'm speaking for the first time. Sometimes I don't know how to speak them, how to pronounce them. Inquiry or inquiry, I don't know. An investigation inside the parliament. The opposition is doing an investigation on how the government management of the pandemic costed more lives to Black and indigenous communities. And we have scientists testifying. We have the source from it in the Crime Think article also, showing a presentation. They were going to zip a presentation to the government about the rates of death, the death tolls in Black and indigenous communities. Minutes before the presentation, this slideshow was deleted. The guy couldn't present that. A general, military, I don't remember, who is advisor of the president, took this page from the presentation. He couldn't present that. Not even the discourse, not even to the scientific data can show that indigenous people and Black people and poor are suffering and dying more by COVID. So there's an entire policy to shut the things, shut down the information, and say to people, everything is fine, go to work, just a little flu. The Bolsonaro say that many times. Oh, there are 200,000 deaths. He said, so what? I'm not a grave digger. So I don't know if you can have the portrait of that. Can you imagine? I don't know. It's a different kind of fascism. It's a different kind of thing.
It's really hard to.
And I don't know if you guys know. Also, Brazil has the biggest public health system that is organized, that came to exist by the organization and the work of health workers in the 80s, during the end of dictatorship and democratic era. The constitution was written, and this healthcare became a right. So, if you break a leg, if you have a disease, you go there, you'll be treated for free. That's the thing. Brazil is a showcase for the world. Everybody comes here to study. And we as radicals, as anti-capitalists, value the health workers as, as the most precious thing we have. We know that we can count on them. They are like very burnout in this moment, and Brazil could be the vaccination programs in Brazil. Brazil has a history of good vaccination programs, and how this kind of new right and this kind of fascist regime is different. We have Bolsonaro appropriating this huge health structure, this structure that is example for the whole world. If he wanted that, he could like get the vaccines from a lab, from anybody, from any, and be the hero, vaccinate everybody, and the business will be back. If you think about capitalist management, you will be thinking on that. We will be like a fucking giant New Zealand, where people will be working and fine, and everybody vaccinated and stuff. Even if you close the borders and stuff, all there's other security and authoritarian measures. So, Bolsonaro could use these tools to consolidate power. He decided not to use that. He decided to deny science and now he's doing a very hard time for himself. Even the right wing, even the rich, even the banks, even the corporations, even the bourgeois media is breaking with him, because they know that the guy is crazy, his stuff is crazy, the military is crazy, not in a crazy way. They're like stupid in some way that they cannot even use these tools to consolidate power. They use this just to eliminate people, just to make the pandemic spread. And one of the speeches Bolsonaro did for his campaign was, "I'm not going to give 1 centimeter of land to indigenous people." So he was at war with indigenous, with the quilombos, which is the slave, former slave communities, the African Brazilian communities that are like very similar to indigenous communities, you know, but the only thing is the difference that they were organized here as a resistance to the slave system. There's still, there are hundreds of them in Brazil, and Bolsonaro is the enemy of them too. So basically that's how the thing works. Should I go to the solidarity actions and all the stuff?
Yes, just a small question. How much of the Brazil population is vaccinated actually? Do you know it?
Well, it's now it's more. There's a lot of people. I have to check. Maybe we can Google that.
If you have to Google it, I think everybody can Google it for themselves. And it was just a quick question. So
now it's much better. We have like fully vaccinated 30%, but
right.
it's still not much, you know. It's still like very fucked up. So
hopefully it gets more.
Yeah, let's see. And what else? I was going to show you some more pictures.
Yeah.
So, and then we open to our comrades. I can see many names. Let's see, later we can see if them are from different countries. Well, can you see this beautiful flag here?
Yes.
So yeah, this is an anti-fascist protest in our town, Belo Horizonte. So during the beginning of the pandemic, the rule was stay at home, right? Some people took it too seriously, and not even when the people were dying because of this fascist regime, and because of when too many thoughts sometimes and my mouth doesn't follow. We have the pandemic's going on, and I don't know if you have that in Germany already, but in the United States we saw it, and in Brazil I think we invented that shit. That is the pro-protests. Nothing's happening, nobody says anything. Bolsonaro supporters go to the street to celebrate they exist. They are not protesting for anything. They're protesting to say, whoa, everything is fine. Everything's basically that shit. So I think it's very classical for fascists to do rallies to show how things are great. And here we see anti-fascists and soccer teams organized in Porto Alegre, in the very south of Brazil, to block Bolsonaro supporters' march. Here is downtown in our city. This is Resistência Alvinegra, many other collectives and even parties and anarchists and anti-fascists all together. In our city, the first demos which happened was called by the anti-fascist soccer fans, which broke with the silence. Even the left was promoting that stay at home, don't do nothing. If you riot, you give excuse to Bolsonaro to use exception laws, and as if the elite or as if fascists need reason to oppress, to slave, to kill us. They only existence is a threat. So literally a dozen anti-fascist soccer fans made a riot to block the way of a motorcade, a car parade of Bolsonaristas. And then they posted a video next week, Many other showed up. Now we have like already thousands of people on the streets, and people were going to it in the March, April of 2020. You can see here, this is our town also. You can see the flag, protester with the flag, with a shirt of Ferguson. I love Ferguson, with a cop car burning, making a sweetheart. So it started to happen all over the country. This is our city also, anti-fascist soccer fans from Cruzeiro, from America, Corinthians, Atlético, which are soccer teams here. Those are protests in Rio de Janeiro. It's written Black Lives Matter in Portuguese, and the lives of people in the favelas matter. As I told you before, the numbers of police killings were rising in Rio de Janeiro, and we have police operation killing people during the food distribution. We have a comrade, we have anarchists organizing in Rio de Janeiro, which have a comrade like shot by police because they're shooting around, doing the raids and shoot. They enter the favela as a military goes to another country, like shoot, conquest, so on, promote terror. So this is the biggest cemetery in São Paulo, one of the biggest cemetery in South America, which was having a hard time opening hundreds of graves monthly. One of the biggest soccer fans in Brazil organizations, Gaviões da Fiel, the fans of Corinthians, called for a demonstration in Paulista Avenue in São Paulo against Bolsonaro, and became a riot. Provide us very nice pictures, including this one from a worker, the deliveries things. We're using those delivery app, which is trending in Brazil, which is like amazing, because in Brazil, usually we already have 50% or more of the working population working without papers. So I think it's another thing to add to the picture you have from Brazil. It's important to know that most of people, if you met Brazilian people, 50% chance of that the person doesn't have the papers to work, is just like working with no insurance, with no rights, with nothing. So for us, it's very nice to see how the precarious workers join us in the anti-fascist struggle. And the delivery workers are one of the groups that are organizing the most radical struggles right now in Brazil. You should pay attention on that too. Anti-fascist soccer fans in our town. They also was forbidden to be in the stadium after they dropped the Antifa flags, and Marielle, which was a leftist congressman that was killed 3 years ago, was shot by paramilitary groups related to the family of Bolsonaro. Those are one of the supporters who goes to protest for Bolsonaro for anything. The stupid 300s of Brazil. And it's funny, because we counted all the pictures we could see, there's no 30 people. So it's like 30 of Brazil, it's not 300. I think they liked the movie, but they couldn't find more people. And they aesthetics, they tried to look like Charlottesville fascists. So this is the MST, Landless Workers movement, the biggest movement, social movement in the world, as I told you. What they did, they organized the grassroots solidarity distribution program. They distributed 2 tons of food for free to communities, to neighborhoods in many cities. This is for the Working Class Federation in the northeast of Brazil, promoting a day for cleaning, doing hygiene against COVID in their communities. This is one of the protests in Brazil. This is a blockade in an overpass in the day there was going to be a big demonstration in our town. Anti-fascists blocked the way and made a call in the morning to go to the demonstration in the afternoon. This is one of the indigenous leaders in Brasilia. Now, many indigenous leaders are in communities are organizing the biggest protests, indigenous protests in the history of Brazil. Right now in Brasilia, we have one of the most dangerous laws about to be passed that will only recognize indigenous lands if the people were there in 1988, which was when the Constitution was approved in Brazil. But this is ridiculous. Those people were here, those cultures were here and connected with their lands before, 1500, when the Portuguese and the Spanish motherfuckers came here. So this is one of the struggles that will pave the way for the destruction of many indigenous reservations, which are the ones who are protecting what remains of the forests: Atlantic forests, Cerrado, Pantanal, Amazonia. This is one of the pictures of the protests in Brasilia against Bolsonaro, and one picture from São Paulo, one of the big protests. I should be specifically about how many part of the left, especially connected with the parties, with the working class party, with the workers' party, are doing everything to sabotage radical actions on the streets, delegitimizing it on the media, and even physically destroying barricades and attacking people who build them. The discourse is that we cannot be radical right now. We have to focus on dismantle the delegitimate Bolsonaro for the next election, so Lula can win again, so we can put a leftist leader again. But what we see is that the street level, the opposition is being criminalized and delegitimized by the left. And what we see right now is the right wing that has no reason to protest, but are taking the streets to recruit people and rehabilitate Bolsonaro image, are taking the streets again. And we owe many of that to the leftists who were afraid to fight and prefer to win elections. But fascism historically doesn't go away with only elections. We have to stop the marches. With the protest we showed you with 12 soccer fans in Belo Horizonte, this was able to delay and make it stop earlier car parade of fascists in Brazil. So if you don't have those experiences, if you don't have make them afraid of being on the streets, afraid of showing their flags and dropping their flyers and their folders, they will recruit. They will feel able to stay on the streets and to be the front line of this new era of fascism. Even if Bolsonaro lose the next election, if we don't stop them right now, every day, they will keep going for a long time. So I think that's it. I will stop for now, and I am eager to listen and have some questions.
Right, so thank you very much. At first, it was quite impressive and very interesting to hear. So, are there some questions from the audience, maybe? And by the way, thank you to the person who translated the transparency. It was very useful.
To what? Translate what?
The slogans on the transparency you showed on the pictures.
Nice.
It was quite cool.
Good. I didn't know I was able to do this, so I tried to. Let's take the best pictures here.
Yeah, it was great pictures, I think.
So, do you have any questions? How's that?
So, because from the audience there are no questions at all. Now I have some questions, of course. I just read in the news in the last day there was some kind of Independence Day of Brazil a few days ago, with a lot of
Yes.
protests pro Bolsonaro and also a lot of protests against it. If I'm right, can you tell us maybe something about that?
Yeah, yeah, I'm glad that you said something like kind of Independence Day. That's good because we're not fucking dependent of any shit. We're still a colony. Yeah, we have the Independence Day in the September 7. It's well, Bolsonaro is doing every opportunity he has to say that if the elections next year doesn't work with paper, the old model, we don't use it for 25 years. This is one of the technological innovations of Brazil. Like, you know, we know who won the election like 36 hours after. It's not like the mess you see in the United States and other countries. So you know who will fuck your life in like very quickly. And he's like using this argument to, and many others, to say that if you do that, you won't be that will be a fraud, that will be corruption and stuff. And in many demonstrations, in many rallies, he used to inflame his supporters. And the Independence Day here was the biggest showdown of that. Many people were how I say, mentioning and considering that was the day Bolsonaro could do a coup d'etat. So a military coup like we saw in 64. And he always say that we should talk, they should, there was no dictatorship. This is one of the first things, like the fascists saying there was no Holocaust, there was no final solution, there was nothing like that. So one of the discourses is this one. But now he wants to make a coup on his own government, which is shut down the Supreme Court, shut down the Congress, and so on. But he has not support for that. He doesn't have the elite wanting to put money in business in a country with a civil war or military coup. You don't have European Union or United States backing a coup d'etat as we have in the 60s in the context of Cold War. You don't have many things, but he's like inflating its supporters to do something. We have like huge car parades all over the country. We have Bolsonaristas, Bolsonaro fans, taking Brasilia, taking the same places where the indigenous were trying to take weeks ago, and the police attacked them. They were there. The police opened the gates. They took over the square of ministries and stuff. They were doing a showdown, like testing the water to see who is with him, who are eager to fight. And this was also a demonstration of, he was like making claims to shut down the Supreme Court, then Supreme Court, and many right-wing parties said, maybe this is the time for the impeachment, which they didn't do in the 1 year and a half, with 500,000 people dying from COVID. They impeached motherfuckers from Workers' Party because they didn't pay some bills. You know, what the hell is that? They didn't kill anybody. If you want to say the institutions are very serious and they impeach those who are irresponsible, you know, I think 500,000 deaths is already much worse than don't paying the internal bills from the government itself in the right day.
Yeah,
so it was that it didn't happen a coup d'etat, but we could see that many people from the upper middle class and the elites are with him. And days after, we saw a week of protests from the truck drivers, which were not actually a grassroots movement, was a movement paid and organized by bosses from the companies of logistics and stuff to block the roads. And even Bolsonaro called him, made a that was a very, very nice anecdote. Bolsonaro made an audio to circulate in the WhatsApp applications like they used to do with fake news. And we have the Bolsonaro say, let's not block the roads. This is bad for everybody. It will cause inflation and so on. And then the Bolsonaristas were, this is fake news. We should not trust this. And they made videos thinking, believing in a fake audio who said, in a fake news, who said there was a state of exception law by Bolsonaro. And they were like, yeah, that Bolsonaro audio was fake. The true Bolsonaro made a state of exception law and made like lots of videos. This was a very good picture of how fake is the reality they live. And now the movement is dismantled and the Supreme Court is arresting every one of them, which is tragic and funny at the same time. But yeah, we can see that if Bolsonaro loses or if he uses his base as a how I say, the front line for insurrection or something like as we saw in January 6th, United States, we will have a lot of people to fight with. We will have like a lot of people with cars and trucks maybe wanting to resist and do some harm. Probably they won't be able to do a coup d'etat, but you know, people can get hurt. And this hate and this grassroots organization will take a while to disappear. That's what we saw.
All right. And I think now we have the first question. But by the way, I have to say it's perfect if you just write your questions to the chat. It's way better than put on your microphone and camera. And the question is, are there any connection or together work space from the anti-fascist movement and the indigenous movement? And it's funny because it's also one of the questions I wrote down here. So I would be very happy if you would answer it too.
Yeah, I think that one of the good articles, you can go deep in the story, the history of anti-fascist and anarchist movements relating with indigenous struggle, is also on CrimeThink, is an interview with comrades from São Paulo, which have a 3 or 4 decades involvement with punk and anarcho-punk, and now develop a huge social grassroots movement with indigenous in São Paulo, in the coast of São Paulo. It's amazing. But yeah, many, especially I can tell you about Rio de Janeiro, where anarchists and autonomous movements like anti-fascists, of course, are directly related with the indigenous movements there, doing blockades, organizing solidarity actions, raising resources so people can go to Brasilia, capital of Brazil, to protest this time. We have Aldeia Maracanã, which is our indigenous aldeia, I don't know the name, village, I don't know the name in English for the proper name for aldeia, in downtown. We have in São Paulo, Parque Jaraguá, which is a indigenous lands, a mountain connected inside of the city of São Paulo, which have like a lot of Guarani people resisting, and the anti-fascists, the radicals, autonomous movements, anarchists relate a lot with them. Here in my town, we have like a work with solidarity with many of the indigenous Guaranis, especially around here. We have also Krenak, Kaigang, many other nations. And yes, we try to support, to organize with them solidarity actions, media, and support them in the protests. Also, we have a very good relation, and I think we should all pay attention in what they are doing right now, and the message the indigenous people are doing in Brazil right now, because they're showing that doesn't matter which government is in place, it's ruling the country. All of them is pro-capitalism. It's pro what we call development, and it's in favor of destroying, dismantling the indigenous lands. So it doesn't matter. Their fight is going to be radical and not pacified under any government. And what we saw also was the Workers' Party rule didn't move forward to registrate and officialize indigenous lands in 13 years. So what we are seeing right now, the struggle we see right now, we try to support right now, is the struggle that could have much different if the so-called allies in power for 13 years did something to make that sometimes I don't know the words in English, to make that work and be not threatened right now. Thanks for the question. I think you all should pay attention. We all, but especially outside of Brazil, to the radical and the how essential the indigenous struggles are in Brazil and the world right now.
Yeah,
from
especially for
Chiapas
us.
to Rojava to Brazil.
Yeah, of course. It's especially interesting for us here in Germany because we don't have anything like an indigenous movement here. So it's really important to hear about it and to know about the struggle. So thank you very much also for this.
Thank you.
Are there even more questions from the audience, maybe? If not, I have
hard ones.
All right, let's wait for a second. Maybe there's.
Come on, people. You don't even have to speak. Just write. There's no shame on that. Come on. No reason to be shy.
But maybe during the people are thinking about their questions, I have another small question. You mentioned sometimes the soccer fans are playing an important role in the protests.
Yes.
It's interesting. Why is it like that? Because I think that's also a phenomenon which we from here do not know.
Wow. You see, I lost the last thing. From there, you don't hear about it. You don't know about it in Brazil, right?
And also we don't know it from here in Germany. There are no such important role of the soccer fans during protests.
Really? So, I thought it was something like that. I heard about São Paulo fans in Hamburg.
Yes, of course, but it's only
dividing the stadium to the riots. Huh?
This is very true. There are great soccer fans from the FC St. Pauli here.
Yeah.
But it's not that big in social movements, I would say. They're pretty cool and very political fans, but almost only in the football context itself. So they're fighting fascists in the stadium, but not also outside, but not in the mantle of the soccer bubble.
Yeah, what I can say is that this thing is new for me also, and many of the anti-fascist or radical or leftist soccer fans organizations were new. There's no like more than 10 years, and this one that we see now, those ones that we see now as anti-fascists or feminists are much newer, younger. We have a tradition of soccer fans organization in Brazil for decades, for 50 years. We have the Gaviões da Fiel, as I showed the picture of the protest with the people throwing stones and stuff. They are like very old, like 40, 50 years, and they have a tradition of leftist organization. And there was a time that the club, the soccer club went on bankruptcy, and the people organized it, the soccer players organized it in a self-management model. So the, the democratic model, they call it democracia corintiana, like Corinthian democracy. The model, they do a popular grassroots organizing of a soccer team. So we have the tradition, and these organizations, these traditional organizations, they have like some connections with the left. So we see now merging of social movements, anarchists, and many others going to the soccer fans and organizing in a different way. We have specifically anti-fascist fans now, like the last years, and I only made contact and start to, our collective, our movements now, we start to work with them in the last 2 years, and I know and relate with some people for like, I don't know, 5 years, but never engage in anything. And they are seen as a fashion or not real, not hardcore something by the old soccer fans, by the old organizations. They think, this is a younger generation, this will go away soon. So they have to face this prejudice inside their own base. They are fans of the same team, and they are different organizations. As we can see, as an example, after they dropped that banner, I showed the 3 big banners on the stadium here in Old Town.
Yes.
They were forbidden by the stadium to be there again, and one of the older soccer fans organization punched the other guy in the face. Don't put this fag shit here, something like that happen. You know, some still have this male culture still running on, and you have fascist soccer fans also. You have people who say politics don't go with soccer and blah blah blah, try to say no left, no right, you know.
Yeah, they
I
are
don't know
the
where
same
to.
kind of idiots in Germany.
So yeah, you have all of that. And in this one thing that you have when fascists come to power is that anti-fascism becomes a concept more known, and anti-fascists start to organize and distribute distribute their ways of organizing. So this is happening right now. It's a phenomenon that is like growing more than in the last years because of it, because it's the necessity of resistance and organizing grassroots mobilizations. One of the things that can relate to many poor people, from many working class people, is the fun, the friendship, the culture, the gatherings you have around soccer and around the community of that. They know how to organize, like, let's do a trip. It's if you think about it, from the examples we saw in Gezi Park in Turkey, from the recent uprising in Chile, organized to go to a soccer match, take a bus, organize food, logistics, and even fighting. If it's another soccer fan or the police, this happen often. It's very, very similar to what social movements do. You have to be together, you choose your clothes, you
Yes,
you build a group,
you're
you
totally right.
preserve, you engage in conflict, you know, all the things you have to deal with the conflict consequences. So it's very similar, and I hope really we can build something like we see in Chile and like we saw in Turkey in 2013 happening in Brazil also. That's the kind of thing I hope and I wish to build from any social movement, any social organization. Soccer fans are very welcome allies if we can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And I really appreciate that you mentioned St. Pauli in this context. So
Yeah, I
there
can see
were
the sticker right now.
what?
I can see the sticker right now behind you.
All right. And there are some more messages in the chat right now. Just congratulations, which is quite cool. And also the question if we discuss movements in Europe, Germany here. Are there, I also didn't get it completely. Maybe, hello, can you say it a little bit more clear? What do you mean with the question?
If we debate in Brazil about the social movements in Europe or Germany, is that?
Ah, all right. Do you?
Yeah. How I can say? A lot, maybe. And I think I have to thank you all for this kind of presentation and the whole proposal of the global anarchy, because we're having the opportunity to chat and to hear from people from the global south. But what we have here is a I just remember some book I have to take. We know a lot, and we have a lot of influence from Europe. I mentioned São Paulo because, of course, we have like, if you don't go in São Paulo, the city of São Paulo, here, without seeing a shirt of São Paulo, you will see that. People know this a lot. When I have a punk band 10 years ago, when I went to Europe, I made a tour in Europe. First time I left Brazil, first time was because of the punk. And I have the opportunity to visit Kopi in Berlin, many others. The other one, the Riga 34, is that the name? The one who was evicted?
It's 94, I think, in Berlin.
90, no, I don't remember now. The other one in Berlin that was evicted, I had opportunity to be there. And what can I say? Brazilian anarchism, Brazilian radical movements, Brazilian punk, it's very strong and have a long tradition. But the influence we have from Europe, the influence you have from the United States, it's huge. It's disproportional. We try to cross the ocean back also, like the Zapatistas are doing now with their tour, crossing the ocean, with literally crossing the ocean with a boat. And you know, I'm reading right now a book about the ZAD. You know, we're going in France. All those things are very influential. And yes, we know, and I don't know if you get the point. The point is that we learn a lot from Europe, and the superiority of communication of the global north, the hegemonic economic system also makes the counter hegemonic, the revolutionary movements spread. Also, you can go on Crime Think and read. If you know, if I'm from United States and I write a blog and I make a video, will be in English, right? The whole world will do that. If I publish a book in the United States, the whole world can enter in our website and buy it, and then we'll read it. If I write it in Portuguese, this won't happen. Many of the things, many of the brilliant social movements, many of the brilliant experiences we have here, they're not known because they don't cross the ocean back. You know, they are not in English. That's one thing. I saw this. I had the opportunity to make a tour, a speaking tour in the United States, and I made this note. I wrote it in a report. How often I was in people's. We made like 60 talks, 60 cities. I went to people's house and saw their books on the shelves. I went to libraries. I went to info shops. I went to coffee shops, radical ones. And I saw many things from Spanish Revolution, from, you know, the Spartakists movements in Germany. Is that, how do you pronounce that?
Spartacus movement is, it's
Yeah.
fine, I think.
Luxembourg.
Hopefully.
Yeah. We have many things about Seattle, about the Occupy movement, about, you know, Greece anarchism, and very few things about Brazil. Very, very, very few things. I saw one best-selling author that I never saw in Brazil. That was I saw in many radical coffee shops. That what the fuck is this guy talking about Brazil? I never saw that in Brazil. It was a Brazilian guy, and I saw a book from Cangaceiros, which was a student radical organization in Paris in the 60s, named Cangaceiros because of the cangaceiros in Brazil, the bandits movements in the early 20th century. And, you know, even to get to cangaço, which is a Brazilian thing, you have to have French people in the middle. You know, you don't go straight to the Brazilian. So yeah, we know and have a lot when we learn a lot from European squat movements. And this was something, now I'm talking personally again, that when I went to Europe to tour, to make a tour with bands, we played like in 30 squats all over the place. And I was trying to organize a social center in São Paulo years before. And all my comrades there were older, and they have been in Europe, in South America, in Chile, Argentina, Uruguay. You have like squat movements stronger than in Brazil, and more common, many more spaces. It was only when I was in Europe touring on squats, I was like, oh, that's the shit we're trying to do. But when I saw this, our place was already closed. You know, we were really closed door because debts and fights and all the problems of organizing a social center in the third world. When I heard that people in the ZAD could be there and get, I don't know, $600 from the government, I was, damn, if we do this in Brazil, we're gonna do squats everywhere. We just like, government pays us, motherfucker. And then we have to adapt the context. When I saw that in Europe, I was, holy shit, that's why my comrades come here to make punk tour and never come back. We have a street in Barcelona, we have like 5 squats. All my friends found in the trash guitars and drums that we better than the place we pay to practice our band in Brazil. I was like, what the fuck, you go in the trash and you find all that? I'm never going back. And you live in this mansion? Holy moly. And then we came back here and we want to do a squat in Brazil. We want to do this shit here. And that we are doing. We're a little bit alone, yes, but well, I'm very glad that now we are speaking, that now we are having the chance to show, you know, the things you saw you're doing there, you know, we're doing our own way, motherfuckers, look that. And then here we are. I think we should keep in doing this, asking people in Brazil, in South Africa, in Philippines, everywhere, how they're doing the things without the structure of the global north can provide us. Even to resist sometimes in the south is harder. You know, that's it. Sorry if I get too much. Sometimes I speak too much.
No, it was great. Thank you. So maybe there's a good time for the question, is there a way how we can actively support your movement, your squat movement or your anti-fascist movement in Brazil from Europe?
Yeah, there's a question here. It goes on. Can I ask the question? Can I read the questions also? I was, well, we have the website on the, I don't know, how should I type here? We have our website with our campaign.
You can just type it in the chat maybe so everybody can see it.
Yeah, I'm copying it. This is our Kasa Invisivel international page. The only page is support. But we have the whole website there. If you wanted to translate automatically, you can read more about us, or I don't know. But yes, we are trying to for years, we're trying to fix our roofs. If you can see, there's only plastic bags separating the rain from our heads.
Oh
If
shit.
you have any extra money, we have the roof, but it's like totally broken. We have to fix it. So if the dust and the occasional rain doesn't fall over our books and beds, we should to fix it. We're like for years trying to do that. In the pandemics, we focused everything on solidarity action with the homeless, because I think that worse than have a fucked up home is to have no home. So we focus on that. Now we're focused again. And if you have a position that you can donate, you can support, please support us. The social center and the living space, both are the same thing. We have like here is where I live. The other room is the public space and so on. So if you want to help somehow, if you want to, if you know someone who can translate things, who can translate from Portuguese to English, sometimes you can do this. We have a lot of work, but we are not good. Our English is too bad.
Right.
If you want to help us to make visible the struggles here, look for other movements also. We fully recommend Teia dos Povos. We will paste here also a very nice movement connecting indigenous, quilombos, settlements from the landless workers. We have, I don't know, we'll look for Casa da Resistência, which is a very good squat and social center in Brazil also, who can deserves to have more attention and more solidarity also, which is a mostly Black movement. Also, we'll paste here if you want to get in touch. And I think that's it. I see more questions here. Should we?
Yes, but thank you at first for the answer. And if we have some money, of course, we will spread information that you will need it. So maybe we just go on with the question, how do you see the struggle in Brazil beyond against Bolsonaro?
Beyond. I don't know. How can it be a beyond? I don't know. If Bolsonaro is not in the picture anymore, where we're gonna be, or something like this. If you're talking about something that is not just reacting to it, I'm not sure. What I try to present here is how the social movements, nice, how the social movements are. Sorry if I'm taking over everything here. No, the questions. No, bring me coffee. If you can say me, oh, calm down, motherfucker. How the social movements organizing in long-term grassroots movements are now focused to put down this fire. This fire is Bolsonaro is literal fire. Pantanal, Amazon forests are literally burning because of his policy of not putting people to the state apparatus that used to be there to prevent exploitation, destruction, and so on. So the miners, the wood extractivism to go there. So everything is connected to this, to put out this fire. The police violence, the increased, the police in Brazil is a military police. We call it PM, Polícia Militar. It's like, it's not a police like in other places, because it's a police that has the same structure of the army. So is the police that kills most in the world. The worst rates, the highest death tolls is from the Brazilian police. Bolsonaro is trying to appropriate, how to say, to co-opt all this force, probably to do a coup d'etat, which is like speculation, of course, like in Bolivia, where the police make a coup d'etat, not the military. The military just stood and did nothing, which is enough. So all those things happening don't make us space for much more. All the things we do in our social movements without Bolsonaro or before or after Bolsonaro is now compromised by the struggle, because it's even the indigenous struggle. They are fighting for 500 years. They are fighting the same way. They're like having the same problems during the Workers' Party, but only right now you have the agribusiness so strong. The congressman paid by the agribusiness, elected by their money, with their money, passing this huge, we call combo, death combo. It's a combo of laws and measures that will tread the rights of the indigenous to the lands. I recommend. I will look again for a website, PIB, the Association of Indigenous Struggles, which they have in English also. You can read a lot of it, and you can see the first page a huge image of the biggest protests, indigenous protests ever that's happening this month. Is here the link. It have many things in English for you to follow up. Even the indigenous struggle, who is like deep and older than any other struggle in this territory, of course. This Brazil is indigenous territory. They have to have people in the territories doing the daily work, and have people going to Brasilia to make noise and block the palaces, to block this law, because we are facing threats in a way that were not so well organized in a long time. You have the neoliberal policies and the police violence in the Workers' Party, but when you have a enemy that goes away, and now you have a new one who can punch you with two fists and kick you and hit you with the head and the stick at the same time, you get busier. That's what we're trying to do. This is like a threat for everybody. Something I forgot to mention is that the cooptation of the military police and the cooptation of the executive power by the military is bigger than even in the dictatorship. We have 6,000 military, active military, generals, colonels, and all the high level military in the government. Not even the military dictatorship has that much military inactivity, doing like being ministry, being secretary, being whatever, and taking control of state companies and education and many things. It's a huge front line, so it's not leaving much room for you to go back to your territory and do something, and do as your therapists say, forget Bolsonaro at least for one day. You cannot. The shit is everywhere.
All right, thank you. Then there's another question. Is the activist scene fragmented or fighting between themselves, or are they good working together?
Which group?
It's also from Hallo, the question.
No. Who is asking if who is fragmented or what? This one I didn't see.
Maybe it has the background that, for example, here in Hamburg or in Germany as well, there are a lot of intern fights in the leftist movement. So maybe between communists and anarchists, or even between some different communists or different anarchist types, which is
yeah Yeah, we have, of course, is not that the thing we like to put out and spread to how I say, to make easier for our enemies to divide us.
Yeah.
But of course, the as I told you, and as you can find in the Crime Think article, the left, the so-called radicals from the leftist social democratic parties and from communist parties, and specifically Brazilian Communist Party, PCB, and MTST, which is the homeless organizations from the cities, where they were actively dismantling barricades and fighting anarchists and indigenous. This is a group, and in one, this is in Rio de Janeiro. It happened once, and then in another protest, Communist Party beat a transgender group from a squat. They have a squat in Rio de Janeiro, Kasa Invisivel. You should look for it also. It's a very very important place to help, to support and pay attention, make it visible. We'll paste it here, Kasa Invisivel. They were put out of the demonstration by them, and so in the going to the streets with the left, we know some that we can already judge as traitors or class enemies or counter-revolutionaries or what the fuck. We should not throw away all the movement, all the party, even being myself enemy of any party in some level. We know that there are indigenous peoples and black people and poor people and honest people in all of these organizations, but we solve this conflict. And this one I'm talking like, because we already made it public that those are the people who, when I say they were trying to delegitimate, PCB, PSOL is more known. Maybe it's they broke with the Workers' Party, the PT, years ago. Maybe you heard about that. They sit down with the police to to decide how the protests were going to be and everything. So yeah, we cannot see this as an anti-fascist perspective. In 1934, we have Sé Square in São Paulo battle, where anarchists and communists get together, stole a machine gun from the police and shoot the fascists and put them and dismantle the integralist movement. So we try to build this again. We try to build a movement made able to put the fascists to run. But sometimes we see like some communists, some radicals, some people will be like trying to pacify you and even take you to the police to be able to make peace on the streets. So yeah, that is a place where we find these divisions. Of course, we have different kinds of anarchism that are always criticizing. Me personally, as an anarchist, I try to not engage or stimulate any of that. I respect and I have criticism from many different ways of anarchism. I have criticism from insurrectionary, only insurrectionary, or perspective, and I drink a lot of that from that. I have criticism and I have a lot of admiration from specificista movement, which is very important in the history of anarchism and in Brazil and South America. You should, if you don't know, if you are interested in the history of anarchism, the specificism, the Uruguay Federation is very important to study. I have criticism and I have difference, but I have a lot to learn, and I will not engage in a conflict with any of that. And I have friends and comrades and supporters, and I support them in many aspects. We are now, we see that in our town, in many places, we have anti-fascist and explicit anti-fascist front, anti-fascist action, who has anarchists, who has squats, who has communist parties, we have Stalinist parties, we have soccer fans, all together, managing, having some discussions, but having not trying to pick up more enemies, you know. It happens, and sometimes you go out of control, but we try to work well for now.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think if there aren't really more questions, or are there? Doesn't look like.
Yeah.
So if there aren't more questions, I have to thank you very much for taking the time, and also, of course, thank you to everybody who's listening here. I want just to say that on the next Sunday, we have in the same meeting room another talk from an activist of the Philippines, just 6 hours earlier than today. If you're interested, we would like to see you again there. And so thank you again.
Nice. Thank you very much. Will this talk be recorded to be able to be proceeded after?
Yes, of course. The talk is recorded and will get uploaded to YouTube, I think, in the next few days, hopefully.
Nice.
Maybe weeks, but
Nice.
we will send you
Yeah.
the link as soon as it's uploaded.
Nice. Yeah. If you like it, if anyone like it, share it later and join us in the next talk. I will be here. Next one I I lost, and I hope I can see the video uploaded anywhere later. And yeah, I already say that, and I will say again, thank you very much. You're helping us to build these connections across the ocean once more, and to make give opportunity for us to speak and exchange a little bit more, and give us perspective from Brazil, from South America, and from these other places. We also will have the other talks too. And that's it. If you come to Brazil, write to us. If you guys in Germany, if you guys in the audience, let's make a talk. Let's make a presentation. Let's eat some Brasilia spicy food for you to have something to tell your friends.
Oh, perfect. Sounds like a deal. And if you come to Hamburg, we'll go to St. Pauli, I would say.
Are you now in Hamburg, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to visit you all again.
Just say if you're here. Thank you very much. And have a nice day or evening.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Acarajé is very good.